Well, hello, friends, and welcome to the EMUNAH Christian Friends of EMUNAH webinar. We're so glad to have you with us and be caught up. It seems like a long time since we were together, but there's been a lot happening in the past week or so. We have been to Israel and back, which we are going to be sharing a little bit more about in the next few moments. But we just wanted to start by giving you all an update, and then we're going to look at a scripture from Habakkuk. If you have your Bibles to hand, we'll touch on that as well. And there's a reason behind why we're going to be sharing from that based on our trip in Israel, in Jerusalem, and indeed we cover the seems like the length and breadth of the country in about 4 days, from the borders of Lebanon and Syria and Jordan and the right at the very top down to Gaza in the south, and so we'll touch on those. Well, I just want to give you an update on recent news, and of course the latest hostage release of Hadar Goldin, who was not one of those who was kidnapped in October 7th, 2 years ago. He has been in Gaza as a captive, deceased hostage for 11 years. Lieutenant Hadar Goldin was captured by Hamas on August 1st, 2014, while he was involved in an operation to decommission a tunnel near Rafah. So there's a whole backstory here. They attacked him and other soldiers during a temporary ceasefire leading to the Black Friday battle in Rafah, an incident in which a number of Israeli soldiers, Hamas terrorists, and a significant number of Palestinian civilians were killed. When then Givati Brigade Commander Ofer Winter realized that Golden was potentially being taken, Israel did not yet know that he was dead. He ordered the Hannibal Directive, which includes opening fire in a much more extensive way than usual. And part of the idea was to take greater risks to try to prevent Hamas from successfully kidnapping a live soldier, even if part of the risk could mean endangering that soldier, to avoid giving the Gazan terror group new leverage to force Israel to return Palestinian terrorists in Israeli jails. There was extensive media coverage, negotiations, and government activity around Goldin's situation regarding the possibility of returning him for several months. So, had his kidnapping taken place 3 to 5 years earlier, Goldin would likely have been returned sooner, with Israel offering hundreds or even 1,000 Palestinian security prisoners in return, as that was the pattern that had followed a few times in the 2000s through the 2011 Gilad Shalit deal. However, that deal with Shalit changed everything and meant that there was more of a stringent kind of process in that regard. So he has been returned, and that leaves four remaining hostages, or the bodies of four: Meni Godard, Ran Gvili, Dror, and Sudisak Rinthalak, who is a Thai national, is also in that four. All 20 living hostages were released on October 13th, 2025, as part of a ceasefire agreement, and the ongoing negotiations focus on the return of the final four bodies in exchange for the release of Palestinian prisoners remains held by Israel. So this is a major development. The fact that obviously he has been released, and a fitting closure to that family that had grieved this for 11 years. The honor of returning those of blessed memory back to Israel for an honorable burial is crucial in Jewish culture, and vital that these remaining four are released. So it's obviously not easy. While we were away, there was another, the remains of one of the kidnapped hostages. The family had the third round of burial to go through, as remains have been sent back twice before. You imagine going through the grief of burying your son, and then your son being returned again, and burying another part of your son, and then for a third time your son being returned, and how difficult that would be for a family. We'll come on a little bit later. I walked through the Nova Festival site and saw many of the family personal memorials as we drove down there on the side of the road, where families know that their son or daughter was actually killed. Families have placed memorials all along the highway, and indeed the Nova Festival site was very, very moving. The scale of it was heartbreaking, and we went to kibbutz as well, where the Bibas children were taken from, and saw the homes. I have video footage of that, and at some point maybe we'll touch on that as well. But as we always like to do before we go further, we do start with looking at a scripture, and this one was very, very Interesting. It was actually at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in central Jerusalem. If I've had the privilege of being there once before, and this was the second time. And the Deputy Foreign Minister, Sharon Haskell, came and addressed the group. She's the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, and she shared this scripture at the Christian Media Summit. It's the seventh annual Christian Media Summit. The eighth one is going to be taking place in November next year. And she read from Habakkuk 1, verse 1 through 11. And this is what it said. And we're going to kind of touch on and unpack this, and then we'll bring Ruth into the conversation. We've got a couple of videos to show you as well. But Habakkuk 1, verse 1 to 11. The prophecy that Habakkuk the prophet received. How long, Lord, must I call for help, but you do not listen? Or cry out to you, violence, and that word in Hebrew there is Hamas, but you do not save. Why do you make me look at injustice? Why do you tolerate wrongdoing? Destruction and violence, Hamas, again, are before me. There is strife and conflict abounds. Therefore, the law is paralyzed and justice never prevails. The wicked hem in the righteous so that justice is perverted. And then verse 5, the Lord's answer. Look at the nations and watch and be utterly amazed. For I am going to do something in your days that you would not believe, even if you were told. I am raising up the Babylonians, that ruthless and impetuous people who sweep across the whole earth to seize dwellings not their own. They are a feared and dreaded people. They are a law to themselves and promote their own honor. Their horses are swifter than leopards. And these characters of animals that we're going to see in just a moment are all things that actually have a modern day connotation within Israeli society and specifically within the military. So I'll read it without those and then we'll come back and unpack them briefly as well. Their horses are swifter than leopards, fiercer than wolves at dusk. Their cavalry gallops headlong, their horsemen come from afar. They fly like an eagle, swooping to devour. They all come intent on violence. Their hordes advance like a desert wind and gather prisoners like sand. They mock kings and scoff at rulers. They laugh at all fortified cities. By building earthen ramps, they capture them. Then they sweep past like the wind and go on, guilty people whose own strength is their God. And one more short passage to add from Habakkuk 3, verse 1 and 2, to bring the focus back on the Lord himself. It says, a prayer of Habakkuk the prophet. Lord, I have heard of your fame. I stand in awe of your deeds. Lord, repeat them in our day. In our time, make them known. In wrath, remember mercy. So we had the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs open her address at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs with this prophecy in Habakkuk 1, verse 1 to 11. And she focused on a number of the characters that are involved. Of course, Hamas is the obvious one, violence. And actually, the first time that word appears in the whole Bible is where it says, and we have a reference in the New Testament, as in the days of Noah, so shall it be when the Son of Man comes. But that word Hamas is found in Genesis when God looks at the days of Noah and says he sees violence and strife in the city and he has to judge. Hamas is the word that is used there for violence. So we have Hamas there. It features twice in Habakkuk chapter 1. And then I read there, horses are swifter than leopards. That word leopard there in the Hebrew is namer, which means leopard. And it's also the modern Hebrew word for an infantry fighting vehicle. So they use that term namer as a leopard for the infantry fighting. It's a light vehicle. It's a lightweight vehicle that they use within war. And then it goes on, it says, fiercer than wolves at dusk. Now, the wolf is a symbol of the Southern Defense Forces within Israel. For a number of the platoons, they are known as the wolf pack, so to speak, in the sense of those that defend Israel in the south. You look at the wolves as being the symbol that reflects the character and nature of those that are operating in the south. Their cavalry gallops headlong, their horsemen come from afar. They fly like an eagle, and the word there for eagle is nesher, which is the modern term that is used for paraglider.
Oh no, it's just the imagery.
The imagery of a paraglider, which swooping to devour, they all come on intent on violence. So we have this notion and picture again of an eagle, a paraglider was the imagery that she was conveying with regard to what took place on October 7th. Swooping to devour, they all come intent on violence. So there is this connotation that these paragliders, their desire, they were those who were coming with the intent to carry out violence. Their hordes advance like a desert wind and gather prisoners like sand. They mock kings and scoff at rulers. They laugh at fortified cities. By building earthen ramps, they capture them. Then they sweep past like the wind and go on. Guilty people whose own strength is their God. And Sharon Haskell read that a few weeks after the October 7th, and she read it. And as she read it through, she was like, "This is what took place." The details, knowing and understanding the military terminology that is currently used in modern day society. This was her position. If you want to see the full discussion, I'll put a link to it in the chat for you. But we obviously don't want to end on the negative as we look at scripture. That passage that I read at the end in Habakkuk 3, verse 1 and 2 says, a prayer of Habakkuk the prophet, Lord, I have heard of your fame. I stand in awe of your deeds. Lord, repeat them in our day. In our time, make them known. And in wrath, remember mercy. Over to you.
Yeah, we wanted to show you, there's actually quite a lot of videos from the event that we attended up on the Government Press Office's YouTube channel now. We're just going to show you one clip that's kind of a little summary or taste of some of the speakers that we heard and places that we visited. It's just a 2 or 3 minute video here before we tell you some more about what we saw, what we learned, what encouraged us, what inspired us. So here's a short summary of our time in Israel.
The journalists and friends from the Christian world, you too are the salt of the earth. You have stood beside us with courage and faith in difficult times. You have told the truth when it was difficult to speak.
God's speaking to us here. You came here to hear him, to stand with Israel and the Jewish people in our Hineni moment.
When the world tells us to quiet down about Israel or our Jewish neighbors, we must shout louder, as we did when October 7th happened and the equivocators already started their gymnastics. We must keep speaking.
What you're doing is so important. Please continue and make sure that we do it together and tell our story.
I'm excited to announce that plans are already underway for a joint summit with the GPO here in Jerusalem in November of 2026. We will bring NRB here.
Thank you for standing with us, for telling the truth. You help the world see not only the conflict, but the courage, the faith, and the hope that live in this land.
Llenará de risa mis labios de alabanza, y entonces dirán las naciones, grandes cosas ha hecho el Señor.
Yeah, go for it.
I was going to say, it's hard to even know where to start and to explain all the interesting people we got to meet, all the the really informative and inspiring speakers that we heard, and then the places that we saw too. There's just so much to say. It's hard to summarize it in a few minutes, but it was really meaningful to go there as Christians, and show solidarity with Israel and the Jewish people, and to offer a measure of comfort and offer friendship and support. And then to hear from them as well, what they wanted to share with us, what they wanted to show us, and something that stood out that I had never seen before. It's not normally the topic on tours or pilgrimages for Christians to Israel, but we spent a whole day driving up north, and our tour guide was explaining to us the reality on the ground, the political situation of why it's so important for Israel to have certain borders and certain buffers with their neighbors because of security needs, and just sharing many stories of individual families and communities that had suffered so many terrorist attacks, so much abuse, so much bloodshed, and just how it, based on the geography, the topography, that it doesn't go well if they have their enemies right at the top of the hill and they're down in the valley, or if they're in a certain situation surrounded by Syria, that has been a real security issue where those communities have faced constant attack and abuse and bloodshed. And so to see for yourself, the international media can think, oh, or can portray that Israel is just hungry for land or something, and that they're just taking this extra land for the fun of it. But the on the ground reality that we are shown to and heard from many different interesting speakers that lived in these communities along Israel's northern borders was that it is absolutely essential for there to be some buffer zone for the military to have some space to protect these communities. And very interesting to hear the different experiences of different communities, some that were evacuated after October 7th and some that weren't, and the different challenges that each community faced, and the pros and cons of those different options. And that was something I never heard explained or expressed in the media before. And just to add with that, because it was something that happened when we were way up north, at a viewpoint overlooking Syria and Lebanon and down into Israel, of course. And the deputy mayor of that town shared with us that on his staff is one of the siblings of Hadar Golden, and he was wearing, I believe, a hat that he said was reminding people that Hadar Golden was still in captivity and his body hadn't been returned yet. And then when we were down in Jerusalem having a meal with a friend, she said in the building next to her, another one of Hadar's siblings lived and has just, constantly been advocating for his release. And they shared that the family's expression is that their hope, and it's very, a very sad sentiment to have, but their hope was to be a bereaved family, in the sense that they felt like they couldn't even start grieving yet until the body was returned. And we had heard these things last week before he had actually been returned. And something about being in Israel, of course, brings it all to life, and gives that connection of meeting the people and seeing the real places and hearing stories. And that was definitely a really powerful part of the trip. Do you have something to add about that, Stephen?
Yeah, well, I think another impactful moment was hearing, those of you on the call will probably remember when the 12 children were murdered by a rocket attack, the Arab children from the Druze community in Majar Shams. And the mother of one of those children came and addressed the group. And to have, obviously, the loss of their children, a father of one of the other children was there as well. He didn't say a word, but the mother's courage to share her family's story, and it was in a kibbutz that was right next door to where Majar Shams was, and to come and share the heartbreaking reality. And actually, that situation was a game changer, really, for the nation, in the sense that Hezbollah indiscriminately doesn't care whether it's Jew, Arab, or Christian. They just want to kill anybody that's living within the territorial boundaries of Israel. And so to hear her story and to hear her bravery in the process, to be willing to come and share publicly. I think the other thing that was most impactful for me, I think, was actually going down to the Nova Festival and being asked to pray at a tree planting ceremony. And Ruth can share a little bit of this as well. Why are trees planted at a memorial site? What is the significance of that? Is that something that is tell us about that, Ruth, because that's quite a key component in what they're doing down at Nova.
So I'm not exactly sure it's a religious base, but first of all, let's back in for a second. It's
Yeah.
wonderful to see everybody. It has been weeks for all of us, and Stephen and Melissa, I really want to thank you for coming to Israel. It was great seeing you again live, and for the role you played in representing EMUNAH Israel at the GPO, at the Government Press Office, the Christian Summit. And so again, on behalf of EMUNAH Israel, we would like to thank you for just taking the time, opening your heart, and being such an inspiration for all of us. And thanks. You know, it's interesting that so about the trees and that, the reality is in if you go to a Jewish cemetery, you will not normally see flowers. It's changed a little bit in Israel, but most people don't put flowers and that. Anything that is alive, they will put like a rock on the kever, on the tombstone, to show that we were here, to show that this is a loved one. We were here, our presence was here. A stone will last forever. Your soul will always be connected to that person who is buried. But the tree concept, I think, became really powerful with J&F, Jewish National Fund, when they started to buy parcels of land in the end of the 1800s, early 1900s, when the Jewish community wanted to actually purchase land and plant seeds, and the seeds being the trees, because when, as we all know, roots, it's the symbolism of roots. When you plant something, you are putting something there for permanence. The deeper the roots, the deeper your emunah, the deeper your belief. And certainly in Israel, we want to make sure that our people are here and rooted in the land forever. It's God's land, and it was given to us as a gift from Hashem. So I would say that's really most likely the reason, Stephen.
Yeah, and while we were there, so just a couple of minutes before, one of the organizers of that came up to me. We were listening to the stories of two of them, the organizer of the Nova Festival and one of the people who was actually there, and their survival story. And he came up to me, said, we're doing a tree planting ceremony, and I want you to be one of the people that prays. And so there I was with 3 or 4 minutes to kind of prepare this process. I was like, well, okay, this is a big deal. This is, 150 Christian media professionals from all over the world that I've been asked to represent and be a spokesperson for in this ceremony. I just thought it'd be appropriate to read the prayer that I prayed. There was a couple of other people, with Mark and Terry Jenkins, who is known to us. Terry was originally asked, and she said it'd be better for Mark to do it. So they prayed at the ceremony. An African sister prayed, myself, and this was the prayer that I invited the head of the government press office to come and join me and addressed him in it. But I just wanted to share this with you. So I said, Nitzan Bo, which means come, Nitzan, come on over. We stand beside you in your grief, holding your people in our hearts. The God of Israel is near to the brokenhearted, and we join our prayers with yours for comfort, healing, and peace for those who have lost loved ones. Thousands of years ago, Yeshayahu, Isaiah, penned the statement, "Comfort, comfort ye my people, says your God." As Gentile Christians from many nations around the world, representing hundreds of millions of people, our cry is that the light will rise again from darkness, and may the memories of those lost be a blessing forever. Let us pray. Comfort, O God, the people of Israel and all who grieve. Let your compassion flow like living water to every broken heart. Grant strength to survivors, healing to the injured, and light to those whose world has been darkened by terror. May we, together, Jew and Gentile, every child of your creation, be instruments of peace and guardians of life. And may the memories of the Nova Festival's lost sons and daughters be a blessing that calls us all to love, courage, and hope. Amen. And so that was the prayer that in those few short minutes I compiled with a heart desire. And there's 4 scriptures that are that is stemmed from, which I don't have to hand now, but I used it on the basis of 4 scriptures that are found within the Tanakh. And so looking at it and the moving experience that was, and being there and just seeing the scale of this atrocity was heartbreaking, and gave us even greater resolve to be, okay, this is a battle that Israel is fighting literally for the freedom of the West, and the West doesn't even realize what is going on. And so it was a privilege to be there, to be hosted by the government press office, to be hosted by the MFA, to represent EMUNAH at the event. And we also had, we landed on Sunday morning, bright and breezy, very, very early in the morning, 3 a.m., and took a taxi to our hotel, dropped off our bags, and jumped on a bus to Bnei Brak, and had the privilege of going to see one of the Emunah homes, and we want to show a video in a moment about that. And we saw two different centers, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. But let's look at one of the testimony videos. Just bear me 1 second.
Can I tell? It's
Yeah.
called Achuzat Sarah. Okay, so this particular home is one of the 5 residential homes, as Stephen said, in Bnei Brak. Achuzat Sarah is actually named after Sarah Herzog, which was the grandmother of our current president, because she was one of the main founders of EMUNAH.
Okay, so let's take a look at this. It's 3 minutes just talking about some of the graduates from Achuzat Sarah.
מה הדבר שלקחת, קיבלת בפנימייה שעזר לך להגיע לאיפה שאת היום? לקחתי הרבה דברים.
האמונה בעצמי, ביכולות שלי.
זה תיק מלא דברים. זה העניין הזה של הגבולות. אצלי בבית לא היה גבולות בכלל. הישרדות במובן החיובי.
שאני באמת כאילו יכול להגיע למקום הרבה יותר טוב ולהגשים את עצמי ולעשות דברים שאני אוהב. למרות כל הקשיים, למרות כל המורכבויות.
והעצמה האישית, האמינו בי לאורך כל הדרך. אני זוכרת שאני לא האמנתי בעצמי, בנות שירות לאומי גידלו אותי, אבל הן היו נראות לי ענקיות ועם ביטחון עצמי, ומכל אחת קיבלתי את הביטחון שאני מיוחדת, ושמעתי את זה לאורך כל הדרך שאני מיוחדת.
וכילד החופש האמיתי זה שיהיה לך גבולות, לדעת מה נכון ומה לא, מה מותר ומה אסור. אז באמת הרגשתי ככה את הגבול הברור, ועם הגבול הזה שיצאתי מהפנימייה, יכולתי לשים גם גבולות לאנשים בחוץ שעוברים את הגבולות.
כל כך הרגשתי פה טוב, אני תמיד יכול להיות פה, תמיד יהיה לי פה את החדר שלי, יהיה לי פה אוכל, יהיה לי פה משחקים, יהיה לי פה הכל, וזה הרבה בשבילי באמת, זה נתן לי המון.
הדבר שאני הכי אהבתי, הם הדברים הלא פורמליים.
זה באמת היחס, כאילו הקבלת פנים שאתה חוזר מהבית ומקבלים אותך בכזאת אהבה.
פורים, היינו מקשטים את כל החלונות בכל מיני צבעים ומשתגעים, והכל היה פה כזה נורא צבעוני וססגוני, וכל אחד יכל לעשות מה שהוא רוצה.
מאוד אהבתי את הסלט ביצים והטונה בימי שישי, חולה על זה.
שיתופיות של הילדים אחד עם השני והמדריכים, וכולם בעצם כצוות אחד, זה דברים שאני מאוד 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 אהבתי.
אהבתי מאוד את המודל המשפחתי הזה, באמת הזוג והבת שירות, שכאילו אמרתי בונה, יש זוגות בחיים שיש מציאות אחרת, בלי משטרה בבית, בלי רעש ובלגן. יש זוגות שיכולים לחיות חיים אחרים, וקיבלתי פה באמת תמונת מציאות אחרת, וזה היה מדהים, באמת, זה היה חוויה יומיומית, וקיבלתי פה המון, כי הם היו ממש כמו אבא ואמא בשבילי.
אבל אני זוכרת שהייתי מתפללת, כאילו כל בוקר בבית ספר, הייתי אומרת אלוהים, בבקשה, שיהיה לי ביטחון עצמי, כאילו, אמרתי אם יהיה לי ביטחון עצמי, אני יכולה להצליח בהכל.
טוב, אז החלום שלי היה כמו כמעט לכל ילד שני שהוא רוצה להיות כדורגלן.
והיום אני משפיעה שזה באמת החלום הגדול.
כשאני מסתכל על זה היום, אני חייתי את החלום יום, זה היה פה. חד משמעי זה היה פה, כי היה פה פשוט הכל. זה החום, זה האהבה, זה הבנות שירות שהיו כמו אחיות גדולות.
בזכותם הגעתי ממש רחוק.
So, as Stephen said, we arrived in Bnei Brak, which is a suburb of Tel Aviv, on Sunday morning. And I had never been to Bnei Brak before. It is a really busy, crowded area. And we actually got to the area a little bit early, and we were looking for a place to sit down, but it was just bustling and so busy and not many green spaces, and had trouble finding a place to sit. So we thought we're going to just try to go to Achuzat Sarah early. And We were so warmly welcomed by two lovely ladies, Sonia and Chagit, who we hope to have on the show in the coming weeks. But they brought us into the campus of Achuzat Sarah, one of EMUNAH's 5 residential homes for children that have been orphaned or removed from their families due to severe abuse or neglect. And the campus is beautiful. Like, it was an oasis, a sanctuary in the midst of this really busy urban area. And we were so impressed by the team there, so impressed by the grounds and all the different areas that they offered. It was clean and bright. There was a beautiful synagogue that was a very historic part of the campus. And we were taken down after we got a chance to meet at the ladies to the bomb shelter, where, of course, the children in Achuzat Sarah have spent a considerable amount of time in the last 2 years, especially during the Iran war. And they had made it into a gym, which was a great use of the space. The children in there, I'm sure, get rambunctious and needing to move and let out some energy or stress. And so they had put mats on the floors, and they had all these different monkey bar things and rope games that the children could play. And down in the same area as well, there's a space for music therapy and supply of water and food for emergencies. And then we were also really impressed with 2 different areas that Achuzat Sarah has prepared as a place to teach the older children in their program, the teenagers, about what it's like to have a job in the real world. And so they actually run 2 small businesses on the campus for the students. One is a jewelry making program and the other is a bakery. And in both, the children have to apply for the job, go through an interview process, open a bank account, and then they have hours that they're working. They have to learn really what it's like to have real work experience. And then these programs also raise money for Achuzat Sarah as well. So it's has 2 purposes, really. And that was...
No, it's interesting. The video you showed, those 3 adults, young adults, they obviously came to Achuzat Sarah as young children before they graduated. And it shows, I mean, they're all professionals now. And what you're mentioning, like with the businesses, one of the things that the homes focus on is really making sure not only that they heal from the trauma and abuse or abandonment or whatever has gone on in their family life, but that they're prepared for the future. And I'm so glad you're mentioning that, because the jewelry, by the way, has the jewelry and the baking business. We have a few Christian friends from church and that who have bought stuff for the holidays. Like, the jewelry's magnificent, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
I think
amazing.
I think they gave you guys something too for the kids and everything. And I know I was impressed, and they literally go to fairs and sell it. So the people who do jewelry, they learn some real business skills. So yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Both places were extremely impressive. Like, the cookies that they were selling from the bakery looked really professional and delicious. And yeah, they gifted us some really beautiful jewelry keychains that they had made. And yeah, it was part of what we were trying to brainstorm, is like how we can help bring this beautiful jewelry to the US or to different Christian groups that would enjoy it and would also want to bless the children there at Achuzat Sarah in the process as well.
Yeah, and well, so some of the discussions. So we had a meeting with Hagit and Sonia about, okay, well, how can we look at and develop things practically to help Christians be more aware of what's going on in the homes. And one of the discussions that we had was, if you are a Christian on the call, you'll be aware of the organization called Compassion, which sponsors individual children around the world and helps provide them on a monthly basis with support. And so that discussion is now happening with the team about the possibility of actually having specific sponsorships of individual children that are at Achuzat Sarah, and looking at how that is possible. I think one of the other things that we didn't we didn't go into it, but there is actually an animal therapy area as well. There is, and they are having to balance, obviously, providing these services for these children while maintaining the regulations that the government imposes upon them. And so one of the big transitions that they're currently working through is, whereas they were able to have dorms previously with 6 children in bunk beds, now you are only permitted to have a single level bed in the rooms, and so they're having to kind of address and restructure the dormitory kind of housing situation. So there are only three beds, I think, in each room rather than the previous six, which obviously changes the dynamic of how many you can house and the processes there. And we saw a before and after of them refurbishing the dorms for the children, and it was quite a profound difference in how they looked one to the other.
Yeah, the new dorms were really beautiful, and beautiful soccer fields, beautiful flowers. It really felt like an oasis, and I'm sure it especially feels like that for so now because of the new regulations that they're allowed fewer children per room. They have 75 children, I believe, that live there full time, that EMUNAH is their, is responsible for these children. But there's another about 25 that they have in a day program. And these children have been identified by social services as high risk, vulnerable families. They're really keeping an eye on whether these children do need to be taken into the home on full time, but they're trying to support these families and make it possible for the children to stay in their families. But the children after school, they come to Achuzat Sarah for the afternoon to do their homework, to have their meals, and only go back after dinner to their families. And they were telling us, how these children maybe wouldn't necessarily get a hot meal at home, that they wouldn't have somebody helping them with their homework because maybe they're with a single mom who's out busy and working to support their family. And this was something that was really touching to hear about all that they do to support these vulnerable families, and how it would be wonderful for Christians to come around and help to sponsor these families, to keep them together, to offer these interventions, support, parenting classes, drug and alcohol interventions where necessary for these families as well. And we saw another video that I hope that we can show on a future call that was about, again, one of the graduates who has gone on to become a nurse, and she has 4 children of her own now, but she was talking about how EMUNAH had supported her through this process, and heard this really touching story that she had become really close with her social worker at EMUNAH, like a mother figure to her, really. And during COVID, this social worker from Achuzat Sarah was in the hospital really poorly and really sick. And the nurse came in. They both had masks on at first, so they didn't recognize each other the first moment. But this girl that really she had helped raise from a young child, she had been abused. Her mother had died, and her dad had been very physically abusive to her. So she had come into EMUNAH's care. And after a moment, they realized that the nurse was this girl that had been raised in the EMUNAH home, and that the patient was the social worker that had been her main mentor. And just a really beautiful moment there of how, full circle, that she had been cared for by this woman, and now she was caring in return for her. And just what a success this woman's life had become, that she had indeed become a nurse and had this important job of caring for people, and had, after coming from such an abusive family, had found the opportunity to get married herself and have 4 children, and have a loving, successful family unit that she had seen modeled at EMUNAH, which is not something people can take for granted. That as foster parents, that's a comment we've heard a number of times from children, is that they've never, haven't seen a mom and a dad together, or haven't seen a family that that is healthy and loving and supportive of each other before. And it sounds like EMUNAH does that so well.
And first of all, thanks for sharing that, because that is the EMUNAH story. Is taking someone that's had it so hard and just giving them a brand new beginning. But I have a question. I know that you also went, I believe, to the school in B'nai Brak. There's an EMUNAH high school that has a special track regarding seamstress and clothes making, and that these are young ladies apparently that often are rejected from other schools. They have been kicked out. They have not met the criteria to stay in high school. And EMUNAH has taken them in and created this very special school. I believe you all went there also. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we traversed across town to this other school for 9th through 12th grade girls who have been expelled or were deemed, they were expelled from their other schools, and so these girls are brought into a very different environment where they are really from the moment they get in, they actually have a meal, have coffee together first thing in the morning, and work through all of the um, trauma that is has taken place externally. I mean, a child doesn't automatically get expelled from school. There is a background and a history within the family. There's usually breakdown of relationships and all sorts of chaos that has ensued prior to this point. But this school is a technology school for girls specifically, and they have two main tracks, one of which is fashion design and the other is hairstyling. And so they have they're obviously learning the basic skills around life as well, but those are the two main focuses. And the fashion area was very, very beautiful. We were toured, given a tour by one of the students, and shared a bit of her story and background. Met with the headmistress and the one of the teachers that teaches English. And to see that and to see and say, okay, well, how can this be developed as well? And again, looking and saying, okay, they have a hairstyling program, but it hasn't really developed into a business, into the community. And as you can imagine, in B'nai Brak, there are a lot of big families. What a great opportunity for these girls to again learn the business skills to succeed in life.
Yeah, it's called Bet Weinstein is the name of the school if you want to look it up. And we were so impressed just how these girls are totally taken care of. They're given breakfast and lunch as their main meal. And we are told most of these girls are not also getting to eat in the evening. The food that they're going to have is they get on campus there in the day. And just they explained, the girl that we met explained that she just felt totally like forgotten and invisible in the big school that she had originally come from, and just she wasn't going to class, and she just felt like nobody saw her and nobody understood the difficult things she was going through that made it really hard for her to focus on school. And the class sizes are really small there. They get a lot of attention from the staff. And something that they mentioned that I think would be amazing to find a way to help support them to do is a number of the girls were saying that they would love to learn how to cook. You know, hopefully they're going to go on to be the mother of their own families someday. And the kitchen there is really tiny and really old. And they bring in food. Somebody brings in food from a different restaurant or something each day as their hot lunch that's provided for the girls. But that's a dream that the school had, was another track where the girls can learn to work either in a restaurant, and always cooking is a great life skill for anybody to have. So that was that made a lot of sense that was something that would be a great investment at Beit Weinstein in the future.
Before we all say goodbye, I want to know, because I don't think our audience realizes you and both of you have not been in Israel for at least 5 years, and this was your first time back. In a minute or two, I know this is like cutting it short, what was the greatest or the most obvious change for you in the past 5 years that you could just share with us about coming back to the land?
Just how much building has been done, how much worse the traffic has got, and but how much life continues to thrive. And I know they've been through a tremendously traumatic time, but it was beautiful to see couples out still meeting in parks, and you could just see there is still Am Yisrael Chai. That sums it up beautifully. The people of Israel still live and are still functioning, and there was a great, in spite of the tremendous pain and trauma that Israel has been through, they are living and they are continuing to thrive and adapt with everything that's gone on. It was like being home. We missed it, and my biggest concern is that Melissa was like, I want to come back next week, and I was like, this is going to be a costly endeavor for us.
Yes, we want to take you all. There's nothing like being there and seeing everything for yourself, and especially seeing the EMUNAH programs. Like, they're doing the Lord's work across the nation, raising these children, looking after vulnerable children and families. And we are so impressed by the 2 programs that we were able to see, but we know that there's, 70 other programs that EMUNAH's running, and we definitely want to go back and see more of it, and would encourage you, whenever you get the chance to go to Israel, definitely connect with us, connect with Ruth. And EMUNAH's doors are open to having Christian visitors, Christian tour groups, Christian service projects. So really encourage you to include that whenever you're going to Israel.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. at least from Israel, we're wishing you a good week. Everyone should have a Shavua Tov. You should be blessed. And God willing, we will see you in Israel sometime in the very near future. Thank you so much.